Hey everybody, Austin back again with another long play video, and this is Battletoads and Battlemaniacs for the Super Nintendo. Technically a sequel to the original Battletoads game from the NES. And of course the original Battletoads was also ported to a variety of systems. Most importantly, I think the Sega Genesis that also got a nice version of the first Battletoads. And Battlemaniacs is the follow-up to that game. Battlemaniacs is a very challenging game. If you don't want to spend time learning patterns, if you don't want to be on edge because some of the things they toss you into in this game put you on edge, this game's not going to be for you. You're probably going to have more fun watching someone go through the game like this than you are actually having, playing the game yourself. And the original Battletoads was kind of the same way, but in some ways, I think the original Battletoads is a lot more enjoyable, even though it's probably just as challenging, if not more challenging than this game. But the original Battletoads has a lot of like actual beat 'em up action. The level design seems a little more open in a way, like there's more movement. In Battlemaniacs, you notice your character is huge and so are the enemies, and as a result you don't have that much room to maneuver on this first stage here. And in a lot of stages in the game, your character is so large, it's very difficult to maneuver in this game. Whereas in the first Battletoads, your characters were kind of small, and despite the game being difficult, you had a lot more screen space to navigate, to work with when you're trying to navigate around and move away from enemies and whatnot and position yourself on screen. But man, Battlemaniacs, this is one tough game. Like partly because of the issue I just mentioned, where all the sprites are huge. The graphics and everything look great in the game. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a pretty good looking Super Nintendo game for 1993. It doesn't really ever slow down or anything like that. It's got some really cool graphical effects later on in the game. But man, this game is hard. Like I said, if you don't want to be memorizing stuff, and if you don't want to be put on edge, you're not going to want to play this game. I actually never thought I would ever beat this game. For the longest time, I couldn't get past the turbo tunnels in this level. They added this weird gimmick on the turbo tunnels in this game that's not in the original Battletoads that I'll explain once we get there, but that always was a major roadblock for me. And I had somebody on my Twitch stream a couple weeks back say, hey, you should try to beat Battlemaniacs. He's like, I've seen your other long plays, I've seen your Let's Plays, I've seen the games you've been able to beat. He's like, you should be able to beat Battlemaniacs. Like, I know what you're capable of. And I took that as motivation to go ahead and start playing the game. So that same stream, I went ahead and started playing Battlemaniacs, and then 3 streams later, I had the game beaten. Granted, I probably put about 6 or 7 hours in of practice and before I was able to complete the game. But man, for a while there, I thought I wasn't going to be able to beat the game, because there's some very confusing moments in the game where the game doesn't really tell you what you're supposed to be doing. Like right now, it's kind of obvious. It's kind of traditional Battletoads. It's the beat 'em up part. You just run around and you beat the crap out of people. You've got basically the same kinds of moves you do in the original Battletoads for the NES and Genesis, and that's it. It's pretty basic. But later on in the game, like there's this one level where you're kind of on this like cart. It's not really the correct term for it, but you'll see what I mean once we get there. And it doesn't tell you anything. Like, can you jump here? Can you duck here? And it basically leaves your success of the stage entirely up to trial and error. And it's just extremely frustrating. You'll see exactly why once we get there. It's just, there's a lot of parts in the game like that. And to top it off, they only give you like 3 continues in this game. And so you have to try to get through the entire game with only 3 continues. And you are going to see how ridiculously difficult some of these stages are. Like they require pinpoint precision, endurance, and obviously patience in a way. If you want to succeed in this game, notice I only have 3 lives right now. You can lose lives so quickly in this game. You need to do it pretty much flawlessly. Like, you can't really start losing lives at any particular part later on in the game. The first level you lose a life, you might as well reset, but it's not a game breaker. But if you lose a life on like the turbo tunnels, which I actually do, or if you lose a life on like the snake pit, you know, it's like be prepared to do the entire stage over again, because also when you continue, it sends you all the way back to the beginning of the stage, and you're stuck with just 3 lives again to get through the difficult stages later on in the game. Battlemaniacs can be an extremely frustrating game, and I'm so glad I've been able to do it. I'm sorry, I'm just like, oh my god, I'm like gushing over the fact that I've beaten this game, but no, I've literally never thought I'd ever beat this game in my entire life. Like, no joke. And it's one tough cookie, and if you're a masochist, go for it. Try to beat it, but if you don't like pressure, you probably just want to stay away from this game. Yeah. Even when I was recording this video, I was like feeling the tension while I was playing, like hardcore, especially in the turbo tunnels, on the snake pit, on the rat race towards pretty much the last actual stage in the game, the rat race. Oh man, this game will put you on edge. So here we are on the second level, guys. This is reminiscent of the actual second level in the first Battletoads game, except this time you're on this flying disc here. And what's actually kind of cool is, similar to how in the first Battletoads you can, you know, like hug the wall or something like that, and you can sort of fling yourself across the playfield. And in this iteration of the same format, you can pretty much latch onto the walls and just shoot the disc off. There's no more like turning into a barbell or anything like that, or a wrecking ball. And this shaft here, you have to watch out for this spiked logs. They will kill you pretty quickly. This game doesn't really pay attention to detail that well in certain cases. If you touch the logs, for instance, it doesn't actually make a sound notifying you that you got hit. You'll just see your life drop. So you have to be very, very careful about that. But the thing is, you can actually sort of touch them a tiny bit before they actually start hurting you. And so it gets very confusing. There's one really fast scrolling section right at the very last part of this level, and you'll be touching the logs without even realizing it, and you'll just die out of nowhere. And you'll be like, well, what happened? Like, nothing, no sound was made, my character wasn't like, you know, recoiling from the hit or something like that. And it can get very confusing. There's a lot of parts in the game that are like that, where they just don't pay a whole lot of attention to detail in terms of, you know, sound cues and stuff like that. It can get a little frustrating. It takes practice to know that, you know, that's what happens, and that's how the game operates. And so yeah, like I was saying, you can throw your disc either to the left, or you can throw it down, which is pretty cool. If you double tap left or right, you can actually dash across the screen, which is not really that useful. It's not really super useful, but you can do it if you want to. If you want to get risky and slam into some spike logs or something like that, the option's there. Yeah. So you've got these little guys here. They're sort of like reminiscent of the robotic turrets in the first Battletoads that sort of like bust through the walls in this same stage. Although these guys are really easy. They don't take that many hits. They do a ton of damage with their beam though, so you have to be very careful to not get hit by that. And these guys are sort of reminiscent of like the Venus flytrap looking things from the first Battletoads. They pretty much operate in a very similar manner, but they do die pretty quickly. You can just get up and just punch them. You got these fan obstacles here, and at first they start pushing you away, and then a couple of them start sucking you in, so you have to watch out for that. And you can see I'm just sort of pushing in the opposite direction. In this case, I'm pushing away from them. Now I'm towards them. You can see I'm pushing to the right. Now I'm pushing, yep, to the right still. And this is the speed up part, so watch this. And that's giving you a taste of what the turbo tunnels is going to be like. The turbo tunnel is going to be like in the next level after this bonus stage. Now this bonus stage is a level you can die on as far as I'm aware, but it's kind of hard to. You have to be, it's not that difficult. Fortunately it's one of the stages that isn't that hard, but yeah, it's not that tough. It is pretty cool though, it's pretty fun. I like the bonus stage, it's pretty neat. It's got a really, really nice, like, reflective floor, which wasn't an effect you saw very often on Super Nintendo games. And that's rare for you. You know, they were able to pull off some nice graphical tricks with the Super Nintendo. They were kind of notorious for that. There's a lot of nice stuff they did in, say, the Donkey Kong Country series, for instance. And some of that kind of started here with Battlemaniacs. So, these guys you want to avoid. You will lose some of the bowling pins you picked up. And the bowling pins, if you get 200 of them, you earn an extra life. And pretty much you can definitely get 2 extra lives. And I do that on this playthrough, I'm pretty sure. And I don't think it's possible to get 3. Like, you would need 600 pins to get, you know, 3 extra lives. And I just don't think it's possible. There's also pin patterns that are made for pretty much 2-player action. So there will be like a row on the top, a row on the bottom. So if you were playing 2 players, it would actually be a lot harder to get an extra life with 2 players, now that I think about it. Unless they add more pins, but I don't think they do, because I've never played this in 2-player. I can't imagine playing this game in 2-player. It's so hard in single player. And not because it's like there's a lot of enemies on screen or something like that. Because the majority of the game, you're not actually fighting enemies. And that's actually one of my problems with the game, but sort of more on that later. You're not usually fighting enemies. You're on stages like this where you're just riding along. It's like a roller coaster ride. And so I think it would be even tougher playing it with 2 people. Whereas if it was a beat 'em up, I think it would be easier because, you know, if the whole game was like beat 'em up stages, I think it would be easier with 2 people. But unfortunately, most of the stages are like this, and you're moving to the right really quickly, racing along, and it's, yeah, I think it would get very difficult with 2 players. So what have we got here? Are we about halfway through this level? These are actually pretty long little bonus stages. They do seem to go on forever, but, you know, when you're playing the game, you're like, I want them to keep going. I want them to keep going because they're extra lives. The blue pins are worth 5 pins, and or worth 5, and the red ones are only worth 1. But now I got 400 plus, so it's going to be 2 extra lives guaranteed after this. You don't want to hit the black pins. You actually lose health, and that's how you can die in these stages is by hitting too many black pins. Fortunately, it's not, you know, difficult to really avoid the black pins, but, you know, on the second version of this stage, which you'll see later on in the game, there's a lot more black pins that you can run into. And actually, technically, on the second one, it's actually dominoes. They're not pins. So, all right, here we go. We got the turtle tunnel, and this is where I actually die a few times here, unfortunately. And what's weird is the part I died at is the part that, once I figured out how to pass it, I don't think I ever died at it. So I'll show you what I mean once we get there. So there's just like the first Battletoads, you got about 4, 5, or 6 sections of the turtle tunnels. Unlike the first Battletoads, there's no beat 'em up portion in the beginning of it. I'm not sure why they just hopped you right on the bike. Maybe they just thought it would be too difficult. People would continue a lot and didn't want to go through the beat 'em up part. So what I think they should have done is actually just had a whole other beat 'em up stage, like between that bonus stage and this stage, because the game definitely could have used a lot more beat 'em up action. So yeah, this is the second sort of section. They start introducing the little jumps and whatnot. They're sort of still just getting you ready for the last couple of sections. And the turtle tunnel is yet another section of the game. It really requires memorization. This section has a lot of jumping and so forth. There's going to be a jump that you have to hop over 3 of these blocks, and now you have to duck these next ones. If you hit that one jump, you'll actually slam into them and die. So that's very tricky. You have to know what to do there. On these ramps, you'll see like 2 ramps sort of like stacked together. You need to try to hit the top one. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you go higher and farther if you hit the top one. And that's my first death right there on this level. That was actually a really dumb death. I don't think I ever died from that before. So, but it's just an example where you know, One false move in this game and you're toast. So, oh, I did it again. Wow, look at that. So basically what's happening here is you actually have to intentionally fall into the pit. And when you're falling into the pit, you have to keep mashing the jump button. If you don't do that, you sink down below. And there's also this sort of like gray bubble in the pit, and those will hop you up, as you can see I'm doing right here. And right here I have to jump manually, just like in the first Battletoads. And then it's gonna throw me back down and up. It's tough. Like it's And here's the last section, and this is the toughest section on the level, I think. And this is where, when I lose lives, this is where I typically lose most of my lives. And it's just, it goes by so fast. It puts me on edge just watching it. I mean, and the pressure's on because you could lose all your lives and have to do the whole stage over again. And unlike the first Battletoads, there's no warp zone or anything. On the first Battletoads, on like the 5th or 6th block, there was a warp zone. You could actually skip ahead a few stages. But Battlemaniacs does not have that. I think Battlemaniacs actually has less stages in it than the original Battletoads does. I think the original Battletoads has a few more stages, and it's actually a longer game than this is, which I was really surprised about. But here's the Snake Pit. This is a pretty notorious level in the first Battletoads. I'd say infamous, and I think this one, in a way, is harder than the one in the original Battletoads, or at least it was a lot harder for me to learn this one than it was in Battletoads. It gets deadly extremely quickly, starting pretty much right here. And I can't really talk a whole lot about this. I don't really know what to say. You can just kind of watch my pattern and just watch what I do. And it probably took me like a good 2 to 3 hours to actually learn this stage and get it down to where I could get through most of it pretty much without dying, or only dying a couple times. And it's the sort of thing where even when I'm comfortable with, you know, the patterns and the flow of the stage, I'm still on edge the whole time. I'm still not really having fun playing it. It's stressful gameplay. Like, because look at how big my character is, and look at how little space I have to get through some of these spiked areas. It's just the game. It feels like it was just made to put you on edge, and that's what this whole stage is like. This is what most of this game is like, and that's what's tough about it. It's just, man, once you get it down, I guess you get it down, but the stress part doesn't go away. Like, I haven't played the game enough for the stress part to go away, and I don't think it ever will, because there are so many close encounters, and I do die right up here, and you'll see. This was a bad mistake on my part. Ugh. Now, I'm playing as Pimple, and Pimple doesn't actually jump as high as, was it Rash or Zitz? I don't remember. One of the characters is captured and you can't play as him, but the other one, the smaller green toad, is actually player 2. But if you put your controller into the player 2 port and do single player that way, you can actually play as him. I think it's Rash. And he's actually smaller and he jumps higher, which is interesting. So he actually makes certain parts of these levels easier than with Pimple. I actually picked Pimple on this playthrough specifically because when I got to the rat race with Rash, I only beaten the game with Pimple, right? So I decided to go ahead. I beat it with Pimple twice, and then I decided to go ahead and try to beat it with Rash, and for some reason I just couldn't beat the rat race with him. I don't know why, really. So I don't know if he falls slower or something like that, but I do know that he jumps higher. And so in a way, this level could be easier with Rash, whereas with Pimple, when you're trying to like jump over double spikes or something like that, your precision's got to be pinpoint. And that's basically where I was getting at. Pimple is bigger, and he doesn't jump as high as Rash. Rash is smaller, moves faster, actually moves a lot faster, And I think his attacks come out quicker too. So if you're having a problem with the game, try plugging your controller into player 2's port and play with Rash. So this is the last stretch, and I think I actually die here. No, interesting. Okay, did I die once and I didn't just? Who cares? We're past it. So this is yet another on-rails section, and they call it the jet tractors. And basically you're on this, well, sort of jet thing attached to the ground. And when you get to a corner, you have to press in the direction of the track. So now we're going, we just left, down, right, down, left. So you actually have to press the direction in that direction on the D-pad. If you press a different direction, you actually slow down, and there's a little dude behind you that when he passes you, he actually chops you in half. I don't know how he chops you in half, but he does. And so you can't let that guy pass you. There's also two other gimmicks in this stage. You have to press A to jump and B to duck. And this is one of the levels I was mentioning where they don't tell you that you can do that. They just assume that you know to jump. So right here's a jump, just like that. And if you don't time it right, you'll fall down to your death. And what sucks about this level is you have to do the entire thing over again if you die. There are no checkpoints, no nothing. So trying to figure this out the first time I played was just a nightmare. I had to continue this level so many times. It's just a memorization fest. So we're going to duck, and you press B to duck. Now we're almost towards the end, actually. It's actually not that long when you think about it, but when you're learning it and dying at every single freaking corner, it's very, very frustrating. I make it look easy, but it's actually, it was very frustrating to learn. And so we're going to duck, jump, duck, and then jump twice, and then we're done. It was that last stretch that always got me too. So now we're going to do another bonus stage, and then after that we're at the rat race again. Or not again, but we're at the rat race, which is the final actual stage in the game. And I say that because while you do fight the final boss, you fight the final boss actually at the bottom of the rat race, but it actually goes to another story screen and stuff like that. So it's actually technically a different level, but you still fight the final boss at the bottom of the tower on the rat race, which is kind of a disappointing thing to me. I wish they, gave you a different stage for the final level. It seems like some shortcuts were made on this game, I think. Like, the game doesn't feel as fleshed out as the first Battletoads, in terms of, like, it doesn't have as many stages. Like, it reuses this bonus stage twice, basically. It just changes the colors of the color on the flooring. I mean, it still looks cool, but I much rather would have had like another beat 'em up stage, or give me like another surfing level or something like that, like you saw in the first Battletoads. It was a really cool stage. So it just seems like some corners were cut on this game. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but and you'll see what I mean once we fight the final boss. It's just kind of like, I don't know. You beat the rat race and you're like, man, that was intense. And then like the screen refreshes and you're still on the rat race tower, and you're like, damn. It just feels like there should be more, But yeah, we're almost towards the end, guys. So, and I've got 200 dominoes. They're dominoes now, whereas on the first one they were bowling pins. So I guess that is different. And I'm pretty sure I do earn 2 extra lives here, but I do hit a couple of black dominoes. And again, just like on the other one, the blue ones award you 5. So, since we're pretty much on a part where I can just talk, we're on pretty much a break. There's not really much to this level. I want to know in the comments if you've played this game before. I want to know if you played the first Battletoads before. And I want to know what your thoughts are in these games. Do you like these games? Have you beaten these games? do you think you'll ever beat these games? What are your experiences with the Battletoads series, primarily the first one and Battlemaniacs? Also, have you played the Game Boy ones? Like, I actually used to play the first one on Game Boy a lot, which was actually an original game. And then they made Battletoads in Ragnarok's World, which I think was actually a port of the first Battletoads. But yeah, post some comments below. Let me know if you've played this game. Let me know if you've ever beaten it. And yeah, I'm actually kind of looking forward to seeing what Microsoft does with the Battletoads series, because apparently, as of recording this video, they're going to be bringing the Battletoads characters over to the Xbox One version of Shovel Knight, but they've also teased potentially a full game as well. So it'll be interesting to see if they make a new game, and if they do, if it's as stupid difficult as the originals were. Because these games, man, ugh. These games will make you want to not play video games ever again. Or they'll turn you from an action gamer into a strictly role-playing gamer. You'll never play an action game again after attempting these games. So this is the rat race. We're pretty much, it's a tower, and it's got 3 sections. Each section has this short platforming section, and then this rat busts out of nowhere, and you have to basically race him down to the bottom. And you basically have to get to the bottom and blow him up. If he gets to the bottom first, he blows you up. And it's just frustrating. I think I actually died once during this. Maybe even twice. How many lives do I have? 3? I might have died twice on the rat race. There's 3 sections to the rat race, like I said. And it gets progressively more difficult. You have the ability to punch the rat, but I find it to be pretty useful. Sorry, not useful. I find it to be pretty useless. Because if you miss him, which is very easy, it actually slows you down. And see, like I just tried punching him right there, and it just was not happening. Sometimes it'll slow him down. Sometimes you'll just knock him to where he wants to go, and it just sort of speeds him up. And I'm pretty sure it's this 3rd one here I die at, because I do remember having to do this a couple times. Now what's interesting is if you die during the rat race itself, you have to do all these sections over again. If you die in the short platforming section there, you actually just respawn right where you are. I don't really understand why they went for that design choice, but I mean, I'm thankful for it, because sometimes you will die on the platforming part, not the race part. See, I just tried punching him, and I tried punching him again, and I might have actually beaten him, but I just tried punching multiple times, and that was stupid, and that just killed me. So, you're gonna see the whole screen just blow up, and I'll have to start all over. See, just like that. Now we're back at the top of the tower, all the way at the beginning. And Battletoads and Battlemaniacs will just, you know, really frustrate the hell out of you, because it requires the trial and error in order to learn the hard parts of the game. But when you die at the hard parts of the game, it puts you back so far, you've got to do the easy parts all over again. And it's just punishing. Very, very punishing. And the thing is, like, I don't mind that in some games, but it's like even the easy parts of this game are still hard. And it's draining. The thing is, it's draining. And so by the time you get back to the hard part, your mind is just like toast. It just wants to stop, because there's just so much going on in this game. And play the game, you'll know exactly what I mean. And it's rough, guys. This game is not playing around. Just as the first Battletoads wasn't playing around. But there was just something about the first Battletoads. I had an easier time progressing through it. Ugh, I'm really curious how many people actually beat this game back in the day. That's what I'm curious about. Because, man, this is, like I said, this is a hard game. And I wonder how many people, like, rented it and actually beat it on, like, the same weekend. Because they must have had to play it, like, 3 days straight like I did for this, this video. So this one, I think I actually win this time, but literally like by the skin of my teeth. He's like right behind me when I beat him. But like I said, once you finish the rat race here, yeah, it pretty much goes to another story sequence, and then the Dark Queen comes out. You fight her. It's actually a pretty anticlimactic fight. She's not huge like she is in the first Battletoads. And I do actually... Oh, see, look at that. Like, he was right there. I really shouldn't have... haven't gotten that. I shouldn't have gotten that. I'm really surprised that actually worked out in my favor. So... But yeah, I do actually get my my one and only game over in this long play here. And fortunately, since we're technically on a different stage, when I continue, I just continue right back up to boss. I don't have to go through the rat race again. And I found out the hard way that her little projectile here, where for one it does a ton of damage, but you can't stand in front of it. You have to duck it. And you can't jump over it either, at least not with Pimple, unless it's going downwards at an angle. And so I get punished quite a bit here. You see, I couldn't jump over it like that. I think with Rash, you might be able to jump over it because, you know, Rash's jump is just a lot taller. And, you know, the Dark Queen, this is all she does. She gets faster and faster about it. Like, she doesn't stay out as long. She teleports away pretty quickly towards the end. And I think I actually get, like, 1 or 2 hits away from killing her on... I just keep making dumb mistakes like that, just running into it. But I get 1 or 2 hits away from defeating her. And then I get my game over. Just, you know, I should have been able to beat her first try. Because I have, actually, the other times I played it. This is actually the first time I had to continue on her. But then again, actually, the first couple of times I beat the game, I was actually using a cheat code. I was using the 5 lives and 5 continues code. And you can do that by, before the title screen shows up, by holding down and A and B together and pressing start at the same time before the character select screen comes up. And when you do that, you'll start off with 5 lives and you'll also get 5 continues. So if you're trying to practice the game, use that cheat code. Otherwise, you're going to be continuing like crazy and be getting extremely frustrated. So that's actually, I used that to practice the game. And then on this playthrough, I actually forgot to use the code. I was actually planning on using the code as a crutch because I knew the game was so difficult. But I ended up not using it by accident and still beating the game. So I'm pretty happy about that too. I beat it legit, with no cheat codes or anything. Although I did have to continue once, unfortunately. So, and I took another hit. Now what I think I figured out on this boss fight is when she's on the bottom floor and you're next to her, if you hold down, I think she always shoots her projectile diagonally. So what you want to do is sort of bait it into going diagonally and then jump over it. See, like I was far away and she still shot it downwards. See, I'm baiting her into shooting it down. And that's really the trick. You don't want to stand up when she's on the ground. Ooh, she shot it straight that time. That was weird. Maybe you have to face her? I don't know. And as she starts getting faster, when she teleports to the top platforms, you want to sort of jump in and sort of pass through her while you're attacking, right sort of on her feet. Just like that. That way the projectile goes past you, but you still hit her. So yeah, just like that, duck. And jumping past, yeah, there you go. And do it again, bam. Maybe you, see, I'm having a hard time, like, can you bait her, or is it always random? Like, I have no idea. Like, I was ducking those times, and it was still going up top. But that's it. Now it's not quite over yet. There's actually one sort of reflex section in just a few moments for the ending. I don't know if it's mandatory to actually beat the game, but I'll show you what I mean in just a few moments. Alright, so right here, a cursor is going to come up and down, and you have to sort of press B, like right when it's on top of the saucer. And if you don't do it, your missiles will actually miss. But I got it, 3 times, and we're done. The credits pretty much roll, and that's it. Probably the lamest ending ever, considering how difficult the game is. That's being a little harsh, it gives you some text and stuff like that, but yeah, it's... you kind of wish for more based on how difficult it is. It's just, it's such a difficult game, guys. Man. So, there you have it, guys. Battletoads and Battlemaniacs for the Super Nintendo. I hope you guys enjoyed this long play video. I really have no idea what else to say. I am really curious to know what you guys think of Battletoads, specifically Battlemaniacs, because again, this is a game I never thought I'd ever complete, but here I am now, sitting at the ending screen, talking about how I've completed the game. So, but anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you're new to my channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button. I've got a lot of videos like this on my channel. Feel free to check them out, and I'll have more videos sometime soon. And for those of you guys that do the Twitch thing, I also stream every Thursday night on Twitch around 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and that's how I found out about trying to do this game again. I got talked into it on Twitch, so maybe you can jump into my Twitch stream and talk me into playing something I don't want to play, and maybe 3 days later I'll have it beaten. So, that said, guys, I'm out. Take it easy, and have a good day or good night, and I'll see you next time.